Well, a very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicholas Reid from Reid Corporate, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this investor webinar with Noronex, ASX code NRX. Well, yesterday was a big day for Noronex, with the company's shares surging on big volumes on the back of some exciting drill results from the company's Fiesta copper project in Namibia, including a 33-metre intercept in step-out drilling. I'm very pleased to have Noronex's Chief Geologist, Bruce Hooper, join me today to tell investors why he is so excited about these latest drill results. Before I hand over to Bruce, I would like to steal a bit of his thunder by setting the scene for him with a couple of brief words of introduction. With a market capitalisation of just a shade under $8 million, I think it's very fair to say that Noronex offers enormous leverage to new discoveries in one of the world's most exciting emerging copper provinces, the Kalahari Copper Belt. This belt has already delivered some big recent success stories, including Sandfire Resources' Mathao copper project, a project Bruce knows very well, and the large-scale Khoemacau project owned by Chinese giant MMG. The big breakthrough for Noronex came in July last year when the company unveiled a transformational partnership with the leading global miner South32 to supercharge its exploration efforts in the Kalahari Copper Belt. And this has seen Noronex join the company of a select handful of juniors that have partnered up with South32, including Ozcrest, which featured on this webinar just last month. Also, following in Ozcrest's footsteps, Noronex has, as I said at the outset, just made an important breakthrough with its drilling. And that's why we're here today to find out some more about what these results mean and where the company is headed to from here. Just a reminder that you can ask questions on this webinar, and we encourage you to do so. There's a Q&A function on the right-hand side of your browser. And Bruce is going to do a quick run-through of the results, step us through a couple of diagrams, and then we're going to turn this into an interactive session. So please fire in as many questions as you can, and we'll quiz Bruce and get to the bottom of what this all means. So Bruce, that's it from me. Look, thanks very much for joining us. Exciting times for Noronex. Tell us what this latest drilling has told you.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Yes, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming and listening to what we've got to say, and fill you in a little bit on what we've been doing over the last few months, and especially this year. I'll run through the intercept and what it means and some of our future work, and then probably step back a little bit and talk more about the Kalahari Copper Belt. Great place Namibia is to work, and some of our other projects and areas that we're working on. So getting on to the recent intercept. A hole we drilled just after Christmas, or just into the new year, in January. At the end of last year's program, we did a bit of a step out hole, some 500 meters out to the west from where we'd been looking at some previous intercepts and structures and area, and we got a sniff at the end of the hole. So first thing this year, we came back with the rig and we drilled a hole just in front of it to the south to have a look at it. We'd hit sort of deep in that hole, and we're hoping to hit it a little bit higher. As we drilled it, we were doing a 250-meter hole, and at about 249 meters, we started to hit 2% copper again. And so we kept it going. We kept it going to 300 meters, which was the number of rods that we had for the RC rig. And we're pleased yesterday to announce that we hit a number of good intercepts there. The broad one being 33 meters at 0.8% copper and 31 grams of silver, made up with a couple of small high-grade zones there of 4 meters or so, at a couple of percent copper and 80 odd grams of silver. So really impressive silver numbers, and above that was sort of 5 meters at 0.5. So we actually were chasing some of the work that we were doing from earlier in the year, we had sort of two structures, which I can sort of draw on the screen roughly through here, and we weren't quite sure how they linked. So we drilled a fence of holes across there to try and establish, the relationship between these. We got a really nice result here in hole 10, where we got 30 meters at 1.1% copper equivalent. And so, we're starting to look at how these two horizons fitted, and we then stepped out here up to hole 21 at the end of last year and got that sniff, and it's now this hole 23 that we're reporting that has got this intercept, which gives us a 500-meter step out on this system and really changes the scale of what we're looking for. We did drill one further step out hole at hole 24, 250 meters west of that. We didn't hit the horizon there. We think we're a little short of it, and we're going to do further work on it and consider it's still totally open going out that way. So just looking quickly at the section there. So we have about a 70 to 80 meter zone of Kalahari sand, which is what covers this whole region and hides this size of deposit or discovery that we're looking at. We drilled hole 21, got down to 270 meters or so, got that 12 meters towards the bottom of that hole, and then have come in with hole 23. And lots of debate with the excellent team that we've got on site, led by our exploration manager, Rian Kazandungi, Ruth, geologist, and our MSA consultant, Rams, who, lots of debate about what the style of this mineralization is, how it links or so. So we'll discuss a little bit that on the downhole logging that we did on that with the optical televiewer. But you can see that, in these black rocks, the chalcocite bornite's very hard to see. And so we've been really pleased when the results came back so positively on that. Minor structural vein zones, which got some chalcopyrite and bornite in them, and a bit of a broad sericite alteration in places, but generally quite subtle and hard to see in RC chips. And that's why we're really looking forward to the diamond hole that we're planning now to follow this up. So we're going to extend hole 21, which goes down there to 270 meters or so, and look to see what that intercept looks like and be able to carry it on through. So we're hoping to get the rig out there next month. It's just signing a drill contract at the moment, and we'll be following this up with this extension as soon as possible. Again, this shows us this western lens, which is one of two lenses that's been defined at Fiesta. As we say, there's lots of debate about the style of mineralization and the orientation and whether there was what dip we got. The downhole OPTV logging has been very clear, showing the mineralization in the finer shalier units, and that they're dipping very steeply to the north. So we're now getting a handle on that. The diamond core will help us on understanding more about the mineralization and its style. And from there, we really hope to unlock the whole size of this sort of 4.5 kilometer system that we've identified so far, and got some great hits all the way along. In here, I think I pointed out hole 10 previously with 30 meters at 1.1. There on the further to the east, we had hole 20 as part of this program, 16 meters at 1.3 from 160 meters or so, and a couple of meters at nearly 2% copper equivalent below it. So a number of really good wide intercepts in this below the cover. We're also going to extend hole 9, We drilled this fence of holes between the two lenses to try and understand the relationship between these. We're seeing the contact between what we believe is the MPF out here on in the south, and these zones of mineralization developed above that contact in hole 10 especially. So we're also then going to put a diamond hole extension onto hole 9, try and drill beneath that hole 10 and get some continuity, and again drill core understanding it, and test that footwall contact a bit lower down in the system. But there is a whole set of series of intercepts above that contact, and we're really looking at quite a wide zone in spots through there. We've had, over the history of the drilling in this project, quite a lot of significant intercepts. In 2023, as Noronex, we drilled 45 meters at 0.8 and 23 grams over on the eastern lens. So a whole number of different intercepts in there. What we're seeing it looking like is the Khoemacau deposit in Botswana, which MMG just purchased for 1.9 billion. It's now got resources of nearly 6.5 million tons of copper, sort of 450 million tons at 1.4% copper. The zone 5 within there is developed directly on that MPF Dakar contact. It averages about 7 meters wide, up to 4 kilometers long, and goes down under current drilling 1.2 kilometers depth. You can see in a grade thickness long section through that deposit over that sort of 4 kilometers, how it varies in spots and has got controls and plunges within it. Those are the sorts of things that we're going to understand more with the diamond drilling that we're planning here at Fiesta. But it's part of a very big system where that MPF Dakar system, the MPF Dakar contact, has mineralization developed all the way around these structures, and where they come close to surface, obviously been having great success on defining mineralization. So we see this whole belt and district as having that sort of potential. In here, you can see the ground that we have under joint venture with South 32. South 32 have been a fantastic partner. We've really started with them in July. They've allowed us to keep a drill rig running all year, and we'll try and keep it continuing for the rest of the year. They can earn 60% in the project by spending 15 million over 5 years with a sort of $3 million a year commitment. So Fiesta has been where, you know, we're getting this great success at the moment, but you can see this contact between the MPF and Dakar stretches for hundreds of kilometers. We've just got the T2 and T4 domes granted. There's been historical drilling there, very limited, but good copper and silver being associated with that same contact, and we're really looking forward to doing a lot more work on that coming up to July and then into next year after July. So the diamond rig will allow us to get out there and really understand those systems as well. So that's a bit of a rundown on what we're doing, and maybe, Nicholas, we got some questions in on there, and then we can talk more about some of the other areas in Namibia that we're working on.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Very exciting stuff. Look, before we get into the guts of what you've found at Fiesta, just a quick one on that slide, Damara there. So tell us about the drilling that's been happening up there, because the rig went from Fiesta up to Damara, is that correct?
Yep. So sort of from mid-January, after we drilled those couple of holes, the extra holes in Fiesta, we went up and we drilled out onto the Botswana border, out in this Otchiperi area, an area that no one has ever explored in before. We can't find any other previous exploration drill holes. It's again got about 70 meters of the Kalahari sand cover on it. We've drilled 5 or so holes in there. We've drilled at this Otrozondera prospect, looking at the basement margins, and just finishing up at the moment around this Okatumba Gate area, again looking at the basin margins. South 32 again have been fantastic in supporting us to go and do some really wildcat work to look at these areas and understand what they could be, using a model based on the Central African copper belt. Some of those sort of major deposits like Lumwana and the Hook granite, which are in basement on the edge of the Central African copper belt, and of course even Kamoa-Kakula, which is developed on that basement margin. So first time we've been able to look at that at all. We'll report the results as they come in when we get the assays back, but we're certainly rewriting the geology of Namibia, as no one had any idea what these magnetic gravity structures are going to be. Based on that, we've gone across the border and picked up that continuation into open ground in Botswana, and we're really keen to have a look at what's available in Botswana. Again, it's never been explored. No one really knows what the geology is there, and so there's a totally untested zone of basement on the edge of a major copper belt, which is really exciting. We did do gravity up in this area, and we came up with these sort of gravity mag features, which is what we've been targeting. So we're understanding what we're doing there, what we've done, and we'll get back to you with the results as they come in.
Excellent. So the next step essentially at Fiesta is diamond drilling, which is always a good sign with anyone looking at a potential new discovery, because it suggests that you're obviously very encouraged by what you've seen with the RC rig, and the diamond rig is going to give you, the diamond drilling is going to give you a much better handle of what's there. I mean, what would you consider to be necessary for you to sort of feel that, to use if I can use the word discovery here, how much more would you like to see? I mean, a 500 meter step out is pretty significant, but the diamond drilling will no doubt give you an idea of the geometry of what you've got here.
Yeah, look, that's always a hard one on when we get to an economic discovery. Obviously, these sections are under reasonably shallow cover. You feel that you could get an open pit on, but you have to get that continuity, and we really need to drill out that continuity. The whole area now is 4 kilometers long. We've got this sort of eastern lens, which we need to do more work on, the western lens, which we've sort of stepped out 500 meters on and open from. There's a long way to go on really being able to put a handle on that economics, but we're also considering underground, and obviously Khoemacau extends down over 1 kilometer's depth. They've got 5 declines down on it now on a sort of 2% ore body. We think that's totally open at the moment. We really haven't got a hole deeper than that 300 meters that we drilled early this year from our drilling anyway. And so getting a little bit of depth and understanding it more at depth, there's a huge amount of room. So we're very pleased to have South 32 with us to be able to really define the size and scope of the system and then look at the economics.
Yep. So you drew a couple of annotations on the slides to show us where some of the holes are coming or planned. So 5 diamond holes, is that correct, in the next run? Yeah. No, so we've got 5 holes that we're really keen to put into at Fiesta, extending, as I said, a couple of those pre-collars from the RC drilling.
then looking at that strike extent, understanding the strike orientation and differences, plunges within that. Another hole over at the eastern lens, again, to get a handle on the geology. I'd consider after that we need to get the RC rig back and do a major, not quite drill out, but extensional type thing to get enough holes in to really understand the system. But we'd like to get that diamond rig to test an area to the south of Fiesta where we think we've got a potential buried dome, a repeat of that Fiesta system, and then into these newly granted tenements with T4, T2, T10, T11, or a whole number of ones where there are previous intercepts with good copper and silver that need diamond holes to understand them.
Yeah, no, that sounds very interesting. Bruce, I was just going to sort of step us back a bit, looking at this belt, the Kalahari belt. I mean, I know you know the district very well from your time as head of business development with Sandfire, and Sandfire obviously got into that belt with the takeover of Mod Resources. What is it about this district that I suppose appeals to you from an exploration perspective? You know, why is it so exciting? It's obviously very underexplored, isn't it, for starters?
Yeah, look, and I think it's the cover, and we're in Australia pretty used to dealing with sub 100 meters of cover, but historically out in these areas that hasn't been the case. So, you know, Mateo A4 close to surface, 5-10 meters of cover or so. You really go 500 kilometers over to our Wittflay project, which has got 10 million tons at 1.3% copper, and where we started, but an area I drilled some 20 odd years ago. And when we were looking at Mateo and Kumacao, we went, geez, that's exactly the same style of mineralization and rocks from Wittflay. So you've got this 500 kilometer belt between those that's covered by sand that makes it difficult to do geophysics. It makes geochemistry impossible. And so we're working on stratigraphic models based on the known mineralization. So it's sort of, to me, a Central African copper belt 100 years after that was first worked on. And the beauty of working in Namibia and Botswana is they're both mining countries. They're both got good infrastructure. They've got good workforces. They understand mining. They're very supportive. And from Julian Hanna's fantastic first hole and success in Mateo, Sandfire managed to get into production and exporting out through Namibia in under 7 years. And there's not many parts of the world that you can go from that very first discovery drill hole to production within 7 years. And it's really been an incredibly successful development for them, which is getting better and better and increasing at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. That's been a very, very good part of the Sandfire story, that's for sure. So just a question that's popped up here. How long until you actually start diamond drilling at Fiesta?
It'll be next month. Whether it's middle or end will depend on the driller's mobilization to site, but confidently within the next 4 weeks.
Okay, fantastic. Just going back to your point about geophysics, I was going to ask about that because as you say, you don't get a lot of help from geophysics in this part of the world. So, but when you're onto a system, presumably that's when things get exciting. So, is that sort of the significance of this development, you know, in a bigger picture sense?
Yes and no. We wish it was, but the mineralization really doesn't have any direct detection. IP is possible when you get this disseminated chalcocite, that you can see that, and some sort of indications of that from Botswana. But when you put 70 meters of sand and calcrete and cover over the top, it still gets really hard to see through it. We use magnetics predominantly. It's been really effective in defining that contact, and we really now, putting a few ground mag lines in, can drill and hit that contact zone. So that's a major tool for us. But we'd love a panacea that means we don't have to do as much drilling as we're going to. But it's the nature of Khoemacau and Mateo in Botswana as well on these systems.
Only one way to find them really, and that's drill them out. Yeah. Just a quick question on, you mentioned Vitflay earlier, because some investors may not be aware you do have a resource there, a substantial resource actually, 10 million tonnes. What's the plan with that project? Are you intending to expand it, or where does it fit in the portfolio?
Yeah, look, and that's obviously where we started there. We've always looked that we need to double or triple it to have a standalone operation, and we've had some good exploration success in the early days. 3 years ago now, we sort of hit 27 meters at 1.6% copper on a soil anomaly where no drilling had ever been done before. So lots of potential to do that. But really, with South 32 and their support, looking for these 100 million ton type deposits is our major focus. So we'd be happy to look at partnering or selling or doing something, and with Vitflay, it's sort of crying out for action at the moment.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, and just to put that in context for investors in a global copper sense, I mean, the sort of deposits you're looking for, they're large, hundreds of millions of tonnes potentially, but also the grade is actually in this belt, the grade is pretty high too, isn't it? Compared with other, the trend of copper head grades globally.
Look, I've been a fan of sedimentary copper deposits for a little while now, and they're big and they're high grade. They're extensive sheets, they're continuous zones, and they are becoming more and more important and much easier to open at mines because they don't have acid mine drainage with big pyrite halos. They're often in flat terrains, in areas that is better to develop than the Pacific Ring of Fire. And that was a big part of the Sandfire push into these style of things. But we can see in Kamoa-Kakula now in the Congo, where Ivanhoe have been having this fantastic success. They've got, they're probably the third biggest copper producer in the world, heading to being the second biggest, 1.7 billion tonnes at 2.5% copper. And that was discovered 120 years after exploration started in that Central African copper belt. That's up in here, and it's on the edge of the copper belt. It's on the basement where none of us went looking. The models are just developing on where these fluids have been pushed out of the basin into onto the basement, and that's a prize that one would love to see, sort of thing. So there's a number of groups who are keen on finding that type of size system, and the Kalahari copper belt is covered and really not been looked at for that.
Absolutely. And Bruce, just looking forward to the rest of beyond, I guess, this immediate program, what's the thinking, for the rest of the year? Obviously, Fiesta's the excitement and the focus short term. How do you and South 32 go about sort of thinking about the broader belt and how you target opportunities moving forward?
Yeah, obviously, deep in conversations on those at the moment. Obviously, these results have been really encouraging. Again, South 32 highly encouraged from what we understand on these as well. So it's now that balance of defining what we've found here at Fiesta and looking at the potential across that whole belt for something enormous. So we will continue to discuss with them through budgets. We have the next 4 months sort of lined up with diamond rigs and get an understanding of that, and then we'll work with them as we have been doing with our quarterly meetings on what we do next year. But there's a lot we're keen to do.
I can imagine. And you just returned from a trip over there, and obviously went to the Indaba conference. How was the story received over there?
Yeah, lots of interest from a number of significant majors as well now who are getting involved in the belts and starting to see what the Kalahari Copper Belt can deliver. And so, we had a lot of really good conversations with fellow explorers and other groups and funders are very positive. I went up to Botswana again for where we've claimed these new grounds, and we're certainly working through on getting that ground granted as soon as possible and work that we can start there. We think probably with soil sampling, because 20 or 30 meters of cover probably in some of those areas. So it's a little easier than working under that 70 meters of cover.
Thanks, Bruce. Just another question that's popped up. We'll quickly deal with it before we wrap up. The questions around the rationale for the expansion into Botswana, which you announced recently around, I think that was adjacent to Damara. The question is was that related to your drilling up there, or was it part of a sort of broader, I suppose, strategic plan based on the structures through that part of the world?
Yeah, an interesting one. I have to admit, I woke up with a cold sweat in the middle of the night and going, jeepers, what about if we have success up here in our drilling and there's open ground on the other side of the border? I better go and bloody get it. So that was sort of over Christmas, and using some contacts through there, we were able 6th of January or so to get tenement applications in there. So really it was looking at that basin margin and the potential on it, and realizing that there was open ground there available for claiming. So we've stretched ourselves even further when we've got a very significant ground holding in Namibia to go and claim another 1,500 kilometers squared, but just too good an opportunity to miss, and we're really excited by it and looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bruce. Well, look, we might sort of wrap it up. I don't want to chew up too much of people's day today, but do you want to just give us a couple of thoughts in closing, just about why, I guess, at a 7-8 mil market cap, this does look like a great opportunity? South 32, you've got results, you've got drilling coming up. There's a lot going on, isn't there, for Noronex?
Yeah, look, we're very excited by what we've done. South 32 funding us here has been fantastic to have their technical strategic support, really be able to unlock this holding that we've now picked up in Kalahari Copper Belt. So we will continue at Fiesta, we will continue on the regional stuff, and then we are looking at different pathways to unlock the opportunity at Witvlei. We've also got some great looking uranium ground that we need to do some work on. So we're going to be busy.
Thanks, Bruce. There was another quick question that popped up just about your funding position, and I thought it is worth just covering off on that, because obviously you've got a partnership with South 32, which is covering this work. So for the time being, you're well funded. Is that right?
South 32 certainly allows us to keep that drill rig turning, and the team under Rianne very busy, which is fantastic. Obviously, other things that we'd love to do as well. So there's certainly opportunity for doing other things.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, that's great. And obviously, we've seen the market react positively to other copper stories. Ozcrest was a recent case in point. So that company went from sort of sub 10 mil market cap to 50 very, very quickly. So it's amazing what some good drill results can do, isn't it?
Oh, and good geology. I mean, Graham and his crew there have done a fantastic job of persistence and working away and belief to get that drill rig turning. So, that's what makes these discoveries is the drill rig turning. And so it's been great to see.
Absolutely. Well, Bruce, thanks very much for joining us. Always good to catch up with you, and we'll definitely, hopefully, have you back on here when you've got a major discovery on your hands.
Looking forward to it.
But thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll put out a recording of this webinar a bit later this afternoon, but Noronex, a story that's poised at a very interesting stage. So hopefully we will encourage a few people to keep a close watch on this one as diamond drilling begins over at the Fiesta project in March, which is not very far away at all. So definitely one to watch. Thanks very much for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.